A few weeks before the end of term, 3 new children appeared at Pendewi Primary. They were children from the city, 2 boys from a poor family who had no room for them, and a girl, an orphan, it was said. They had all been put into the care of Mr. and Mrs. Herbert, a warm-hearted couple with 4 girls, a large farmhouse, and an eagerness to foster children less fortunate than their own. John, Eirlis and David were officially entering the school the following term, but had been allowed 3 weeks of settling in before the Christmas holidays. Miss Pugh, the headmistress, was a little put out. She had expected only 2 children, 8-year-old boys, to put in a class where there was still space for at least 5 more. There were 30 children in Gwyn's class where Eirlis would have to go. Mr. James, their teacher, a rather fastidious man, was already complaining that he could feel the children breathing on him. He gave Eirlis a tiny table right at the back of the class when no one seemed to notice her. In the excitement of Christmas preparations, some of the children forgot about Gwyn and his stories, but for Gary Pritchard and his gang, baiting Gwyn Griffiths was still more entertaining than anything else they could think of, especially when they saw a flicker of anger beginning to appear in the victim's dark eyes. And then, on Monday, Dewi Davies went too far. It was a bright, cold day. Snow had fallen in the night, clean white snow that was kicked and muddied by the children running into school. But the snow fell again during the first lesson, and as luck would have it, stopped just before the first break, and the children were presented with a beautiful white playground in which to slide and snowball. Dewi Davies could never resist a snowball, just as he could never resist shoving girls with white socks into puddles, or putting worms down the backs of squeamish. He took a lot of trouble with Gwyn's snowball, patting and shaping it until it was rock hard and as big as his own head. Then he followed Gwyn around the playground, while the latter, deep in thought, made patterns in the snow with his feet. Soon Dewi had an audience. Children drew back and watched expectantly while Gwyn trudged unaware through the snow. Dewi stopped about 3 meters behind Gwyn and called his slow, lisping voice, "Hello, Mr. Magic. Seen any spaceships recently?" Gwyn began to turn, but before he could see Dewi, the huge snowball hit him on the side of the face, and the pain seared through his ear into his head. The girls gasped, and some giggled. Boys shouted and laughed, and someone said, "Go on, get him!" Gwyn turned a full half circle and stared at Dewi Davies, stared at his fat, silly face and the grin of his thick pink lips. He wanted to hurt him. He brought up a clenched right fist and thrust it out towards Dewi, opening his fingers wide as he did so, and a low hiss came from within him, hardly belonging to him, not his voice at all, but more like a wild animal. There was nothing in Gwyn's hand, no stone, no snow, but something came out of his hands and hit Dewi in the middle of his face. He saw Dewi's nose grow dark and darken to purple. He saw anguish and amazement on Dewi's fat face. Only he and Dewi knew that there was nothing in his hand. Then, suddenly, the rest of the gang were upon Gwyn. Someone hit him in the face, someone punched him in the stomach. His hair was tugged, his arms jerked backwards until he screamed, and then his legs were pulled from underneath him, and he crashed onto the ground. Everyone stopped shouting. They stared at Gwyn, motionless in the mud and snow. And then the bell went, and almost simultaneously, Dewi Davies began to scream for attention. The children drifted away while Mr. James ran to Dewi, helped him from the playground. He never noticed Gwyn lying in the corner. The whole of Gwyn's body ached, but his head hurt the most of all. He could not get up, and he did not want to get up. There was blood on the snow beside him. His lip felt swollen and sticky. The playground was empty, and he wondered if he would have to lie there all day. Perhaps the snow would fall again and no one would see him until it was time to go home. He managed to pull himself up until he was kneeling on all fours, but it was an effort. He could not get any further because something in his back hurt whenever he moved.